Hey everybody, what up? It's Scuff D here, and today we're going to be going into Legions. We're going to be talking about some of the game updates that have just recently taken place. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's take a look here at the game. So these changes went into effect about 3 days ago. Started the new season. So we on them around the 4th of February. As of today, these are 2-1 updates. So I'm a few days behind in talking about them, but they're good updates. I think overall, I think they kind of shift things around. They kind of shake some things up, and I don't think in a necessarily negative way. I'm going to be reading these off of the screen that I've got here, and then just kind of going over the cards themselves. So the biggest change, if you ask me, is the Teloth's Changers, which is very significant. Telos Changers now does, when you play a tactic, deal 1 to 2 damage to a random enemy, as opposed to when you play a card. That's a big difference. It really shakes up and not quite destroys or disrupts, but it stymies the typical, like the Fulgrim Changer build, which allows you to drop a bunch of cheap troops to further that damage. Now it is just hinging on tactics. So what does this mean? Well, it means roughly, oh, and also their health has changed to 4. That's important too, because their health was at 5, which they made them more useful. Now it's a 4, which means that they can be disposed of easily in a turn. Kind of makes them less useful in some decks that they were really useful in, and others it doesn't change too much. For instance, while the Fulgrim's Changers build can still be done, you can still run a Fulgrim Tactics deck very very easy, very heavily with the Telos Changers. Half of the builds that rely on the cheap troops, those are kind of shaken up. That's not as effective as it was. Whereas the Kelber Hall Mechandrite deck, I mean, all the guy does is pump out tactics for free each turn. So it kind of draws into the fact, kind of fueling the Dark Mechanicum concept here, if you want to go that route. If you really want to go that route, Kelber Hall, maybe even throw in a Dark Engine Seer, which lets you to drop those demons for cheaper. The Mechandrites are going to require troops to play them on, but it kind of fuels that double win condition with the Telos Changers. So kind of interesting, kind of a good change, a positive change, because the Changers have really just been running rampant for probably 2 since they upped their health to 5, really. So that's a good change, I think, all around. I think it'll be good because there are tactic heavy decks out there that can still utilize them, but the ones that are relying on cheap troops just to spread the board and do a lot of damage, not going to work as well. Still will work, not as well. Here's some big changes here in the Imperial Army card pool. First off, Sabotage is now 1 energy, and that's really good. I think Sabotage was a very good card, especially it being a neutral. You can jam a troop that works on anything other than a stealth troop, but the 2 cost sometimes made it a tough call to include or a tough call to use. Now with it only being 1 energy, it has a little bit more of an impact, of a versatility in being able to play it or squeeze it into your deck. It just kind of depends on what you've got. Everybody now has access to a cheap jam. Whether or not you choose to use it, that's up to you. But it's out there and it makes it affordable. And there are a lot of cards out there with abilities, so jamming things is good. And then Goldstone Hunters, big change. And depending on how you've used Goldstone Hunters in the past, it may affect on how you use the Goldstone Hunters. They are now a 3-2 health, so as opposed to a 3-3 health. So they still have the same cost. They still act the same. They're still unstoppable and fast. So it's a silver bullet for 3 basically. But without that extra 1 health now, they're not going to survive a phase strike. So using them out early in the game is no longer going to net you potentially 6 damage. It's just going to net you the 3. They're still useful in the late game, and they're still very useful as targeting to take down a troop with a health of 3, or to get rid of something that's behind a front line that you want to get at that's got 3 health or a smidge of a health remaining. They still have their place, but their place is no longer opening hand, get these guys out, get them on board. They're a little bit more strategic. You might choose to go for the same effect, depending, you might choose to just include a Seek and Destroy for 1 less damage, for 1 less energy. It's not going to damage the Warlord at all, but it's going to have the same effect. Now, yes, you can still upgrade the Goldstone Hunters with Mechandrites or Marks of Chaos and improve their damage output, but the odds of improving their survivability are nil. Well, I can't say nil. There is a Mechandrite that increases health now, so that is possible, but not likely. Ursa's Claw. Now, this is just 2 Latera Sarin, and I think it's actually a very good change. Let's take a look at all the cards here. Because hers is not a game card. It's only 4 Latera Sarin, but it is now cost 0. So this does a couple different things. Number 1, first out the gate, if you've got a Armsman with her ability, or let's just say one of these guys here, Technical Servitors, a couple of those guys, any troop that you want to keep out first turn, you can do that. You can stun first turn the opponent's Warlord, and whatever troops that you've dropped on the table are not going to be, unless they've got a Seek and Destroy or something on hand immediately, they're not going to be molested. They're going to be fine. They're going to survive that turn and build up your board quick. That's an easy pinch. Another great thing is the fact dropping it by 4 cost is huge, because late game, that 4 energy can be the big difference. Okay, you stun the entire board. This is what it does. You stun all enemies and draw a card. Well, that's great, but if 4 of your 8 energy just went to that effect, what are you going to be able to do with the remaining 4 energy? How are you going to be able to capitalize on that? With the reduction of that, and this being now a 0 energy card, you can capitalize. And that's really good. That's really important, because that's one huge thing that I think was lacking for Latara, was her ability to capitalize on, number 1, her Armsman having flank, and number 2, her Ursa's Claw. She just didn't have the ability to pick up steam. Ornitov had a +1 energy, had a free card from outside the game, and had the ability to put frontline on his troops for a very cheap cost. He didn't get that way initially. He went through 3 or 4 iterations before he's finally arrived at the point where he is now. We haven't had to change Latara Saren's ability at all. Her health is still 30, her ability is still the same, her initiative is still the same. But changing that 1 card is a significant change in how she plays. So that's good. I think that's a positive change, and that's something worth noting. The Mechanicum received the most changes of all. So let's take a look at the cards of the Mechanicum here. First off, this Alpha Zeta 54. Now, initially when I looked at the Mechanicum cards, I said, I've seen this in event decks. I like the artwork here, actually, by the way. Kind of old school. His health was really what kind of set him back, because he was a 1-turn kill, and you don't often get the chance to use his ability. Well, now his health is 3. Instead of a 3-2, he starts out as a 2-3. And that makes all the difference. He's maybe not going to be an all-star in every deck, but his ability to get out there and potentially survive a turn, if your opponent doesn't go for him right away or get rid of him and destroy him, the next turn you've got a 2-5 front line, and then a 2-7 front line, and so on and so forth. For a cost of 3, that's pretty good. Because even if you have the time and you survived a turn 3, you're getting a return value of 1 extra health, 1 less attack than Epsilon Row 32. Not in every deck as a common. It's a decent common. It actually pairs fairly well with Caleb Decima on turn 4 because you get him out there, and then, not turn 4, turn 3 technically, you'd be at 4 energy. Get him out there, stun your enemy, opponent's warlord, and if they don't have any troops on board, you've just gotten yourself the chance to get a front line out with a continuing health pattern growing, so that's good. Big change here with a legendary Ambassador Melgator. This is big. This is a big change. Rally, return an Astartes or infantry to hand. So before he was return any unit to its owner's hand. It still works on your units, on friendly or enemy units. That's a good effect, but Astartes or infantry means vehicles and structures are not affected by this. What does that mean? Everything. Everything is what it means. Vehicles. Melgator was a big obstacle in what was holding vehicles back from really gaining steam. You played this giant beefy vehicle, and unless it has an immediate effect like a mortar carrier or a doom bringer, Melgator is going to bounce it and you're not going to be able to use it. Well, now he can't. Structures. Okay, you've got a command bunker out. You think you're going to use it next turn? No, I'm just going to bounce it. The big beefy structure doesn't do anything. Shield generator. Oh, I like to play these tactics. I'll Melgator your shield generator and I'll play the tactics with no interruption. Melgator doesn't work on any of those. That's really big. That's really big. And what it kind of means is, number one, vehicles. All these changes to one shade of degree or another, and some of these other mechanical things we're going to look at here, vehicles are on the return, which is not a bad thing. What it does mean is you may want to consider including the crack grenade a little bit more often. Maybe instead of a Goldstone, you think about a crack grenade or a melt-a-bomb even. I mean, it's not a bad thought to have. I don't know if they're necessary in every deck just yet. Maybe lower tier, especially when they don't have some of the other answers or ability to stun vehicles or jam vehicles. Vehicles are high damage, generally 5 or 6 health. The higher ones get higher up there, but usually most of them are fairly susceptible until you start getting into these big daddies. The 7/8s and the 8/8s. I'll tell you what, without Melgator being able to bounce Alernia Hydra, he comes out on the table. Tactics cost 2 more until my next turn. I can't bounce him. I have to have a destroy card in hand, which is going to cost more because it's a tactic, or I have to have enough troops on the table to do something about it, or I have to have a stun effect on the table to stall him for my next turn to use my destroy thing. Lernia Hydra is a high cost card. Without Melgator being in effect, being able to affect him, his value goes up tremendously. And he's not the only one. There's lots of other vehicles. Auxiliary Lehman Russ can hold a board state on its own now. Command Bunker has a great potential to really just stick and start beefing things with that 9 health. Mount Pharos, same thing with that 9 health coming out on turn 6. Try getting rid of that. Even Zerial Storm, even Hell's Fury, these beefy healths, yeah, they're going to be the full. They don't have the inherent built-in tactic protection, but no longer having to worry about getting bounced by Melgator is big. Make no mistake about it. So keep that in mind. So let's get back to the Mechanicum here. Let's talk about some of their changes. So we've got another big one, and I don't think it's 100% perfect just yet, but it's a step in the right direction. Caleb Decima finally gets his health back up to 35. He's been health 30 for too long. When he first premiered, he was health 35. His ability refilled 1 energy whenever you played a Mechanicum card. I think it still needs to go that one step further, but he has got that 5 extra health, and sometimes that's all you need to make the difference. And there are a decent amount of combos with Mechanicum cards. He just fuels Mechanicum. You can fuel stuff out there, get a bunch of cards out, build a board state, have the opponent's warlord on lockdown. And there are decks who were built on their warlord. Angron, Karn, Korax, Night Haunter, Kurz, Perturabo, Garrow. I mean, there's a lot of Warlord decks that are built around that Warlord. Stunning them or having the ability to stun them the entire game just shakes them up. It really does. So it's good to see that 5 extra health. I'd like to see some more people play Caleb a little bit. Now let's take a look. There's a card here, Maniple Town. High cost card. I don't know quite understand the improvement here, but I mean, they changed its cost from 9 to a 10, and they changed its stats up a bit. Okay. It's a vehicle. It's a beefy, nasty looking vehicle. I mean, as a common, maybe for newer players, if they get this could be their good closer. This one doesn't shake me up as much. Now, here's another great one, and again, many answers that Mechanicum has for stealth. Scartari Protector, their ability is no longer a backlash ability, it's a rally ability. So frontline for a 4-5, that's nice, that's healthy. And now a rally is a random enemy with stealth loses it. Before it was backlash, and it still says backlash on here. It's not backlash, it's rally effect. They need to change that. It's been 4 days. You need to change this, you need to fix it. So that's good to see. And you've got a 1 cost, that breaks stealth here with Arcadius. You've got the Chaos Tactic that breaks stealth with Informant Network. You've got Skitarii Protector that breaks stealth. You've got the 2 cost Rotau that breaks stealth. There are a lot of neutral options to break stealth if you need it. And I think, depending on your deck, there's one for every type of you. Are you going with cheap troops? Are you going with tactics, splash damage? Are you going for frontline protection? Are you going for a little bit of shadow play or setup? Each one of those kind of fuels into a certain build, or use them all together. If you're doing a Mechanicum deck, man, just with all that, you've got 8 options of breaking stealth. Anything as stealthy is not gonna have much of a chance against you. Now, to go with that, and to go with the counterplay of stealth, keep in mind, as I said, with these new concepts and vehicles being a little bit more beefy, you've got Philesian Airborne, and you've got these guys here. I just passed them. The Firewalkers. These are vehicles. They're stealth. They have health. You got Joker Company. You can use that to bust out with the Philesian 5th, but vehicles, keep in mind vehicles, keep in mind stealth. These are all options. So a little short video. Those are the changes. Those are the cards that have been updated. I think they did some patches here. I think actually as of today, we have new Angron art. It's no longer his ugly kisser. It's a beautiful, more up-to-date Angron, as beautiful as you could say Angron is. So that's nice. That's a nice improvement. That's a good improvement. I'm glad to see that. Anyways, that's it. That's what I've got to talk about right now. Keeping it short. I've got some stuff to take care of, and I'll look to get back on here and do some more stuff with you guys soon. But hope you enjoyed the updates. I hope that the updates are refreshing to everybody. I think they're well needed and well deserved updates, and they're not too knee jerk, and they're not too far in one direction. So it's good to see that. Alright, that's it for me. Everybody keep playing Legions, and we'll see you next time.